Have you ever felt the quiet frustration of being overlooked while others are instantly respected the moment they walk into a room? You speak with care, you do everything right, yet something about you remains invisible, and deep down, you begin to wonder if respect is only reserved for the loud, the dominant, or the performative. But the Stoics would tell you otherwise. They believed that real respect, the kind that lasts, is not demanded. It's not won through charm or noise. It's cultivated from within. In a world obsessed with validation, those who no longer chase it stand out. Not because they are cold or distant, but because they carry a quiet certainty that commands attention without needing to beg for it. This presence is rare. It's magnetic, and it's something you can build, not by pleasing the crowd, but by returning to your own center. In this video, we're going to explore the mindset that instantly shifts how people see you, not through tricks, but through truth. If you've ever felt the weight of being overlooked, stay with me. What you learn today may not just change how others respond to you, it might change how you see yourself. 1. The hidden cost of keeping the peace. There's a quiet kind of exhaustion that comes from trying to keep the peace. From walking into a room and scanning every face, not to judge, but to measure the emotional temperature, wondering if someone's upset, if a certain silence means trouble, if your presence has somehow disturbed the balance. It's not loud, but it's constant, and for many people, this becomes their default way of being. When someone asked, "Why does it bother you so much when people are upset with you?" the immediate answer was, "I don't know." But the body knows. The racing heart, the tight chest, the anxious thoughts that refuse to leave. Stoicism teaches us to examine these reactions, not to push them away. Because avoidance isn't peace. It's simply fear dressed in politeness. For some, this fear of conflict isn't born from weakness, but from history. You grow up in a home where arguments weren't just loud, they were dangerous. And so you learn to play the role, the peacemaker, the one who keeps the family from falling apart. You suppress your own feelings to make room for others. You smile when you're hurting. You become good, because being good is how you survive. But here's the problem. If you're always avoiding conflict to keep others calm, you start to disappear from your own life. Epictetus once said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." In other words, don't trade your integrity for the illusion of harmony. Real peace isn't the absence of tension, it's the presence of clarity. It's having the courage to speak when your voice shakes. It's knowing you are not responsible for how others feel about your truth. You can care deeply and still disagree. You can be kind and still have boundaries. So the next time you feel that weight, that anxious pull to smooth everything over, pause. Ask yourself, am I protecting peace or am I avoiding being seen? Because growth often begins at the very moment we choose not to shrink. And when you no longer fear the discomfort of conflict, something changes. You stop negotiating your worth in every conversation. You stop apologizing for existing. And from that place of stillness, we begin to explore what it truly means to speak from strength, not performance. 2. You're not responsible for everyone's feelings. There's a subtle illusion many of us carry without even realizing it, the belief that we're responsible for how other people feel. You walk into a room, sense tension, and immediately your body reacts. You shrink. You adjust your tone. You wonder, did I do something wrong? But here's the truth that Stoicism exposes. You are not the guardian of everyone else's emotions. That weight was never yours to carry. If someone is upset, we think we must fix it. If someone is silent, we assume it's our fault. But underneath this pattern is a deeper trap, the illusion of control. You think that if you act a certain way, say the right thing, manage every word, you can shape how others feel. And when you fail to do so, guilt creeps in. I should have done better. I should have made them feel good. But Epictetus reminds us, some things are within our control, others are not. How someone chooses to feel is not within your command. For many, this behavior starts early, maybe in a chaotic household where your safety depended on keeping the peace. You learned to anticipate every shift in mood, every subtle sign of discontent. You became hyper-aware because expressing your own feelings was unsafe. And in that moment, you stopped listening to yourself. You stopped asking, "How do I feel?" and replaced it with, "How do they feel and what should I do about it?" But that past is not your prison. The way out begins with boundaries, not walls, but lines that say, "Your feelings are your responsibility. My peace is mine." It's okay to care. It's okay to notice. But caring is not the same as carrying. You don't have to adjust your energy to match someone else's. You don't have to lose yourself to keep the room comfortable. When you reclaim that space, something powerful happens. You begin to speak not from fear, but from truth. You stop performing peace and start living it. And even if others disapprove, even if they misunderstand, you remain grounded because you've chosen to honor yourself first. Now that we've unmasked this illusion of responsibility, it's time to look deeper at what it means to truly own your energy and stop outsourcing your self-worth. Let's move on. 3. Train yourself to say no without guilt. We often speak of boundaries as if they're something you either have or you don't. But like strength, like courage, boundaries are built slowly, repeatedly, through practice, through choosing discomfort over avoidance. And if you've spent your whole life saying yes when you meant no, this won't feel natural. It will feel wrong. But that's only because you've been trained to betray yourself gently. Start small. Disagree over the little things, not to be combative, but to be honest. If someone asks your favorite movie and yours is Borat while theirs is Apocalypse Now, say it. Notice what happens in your body when your opinion isn't shared. Did you feel the urge to downplay it, to laugh it off, to change your answer just to avoid the tension? That discomfort is where the boundary begins, not in silence, but in the moment you resist the pull to conform. Epictetus taught that we suffer not from the events themselves, but from our judgments about them. Rejection is not fatal. Disagreement is not a threat. And yet, so many of us make it personal. They don't like what I like. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not enough. But let's be clear. You're not required to be liked by everyone. You're not even meant to. Just as you don't resonate with everyone, not everyone will resonate with you. That's not rejection. That's reality. The reason we struggle with boundaries often traces back to how we were conditioned. If you were raised in a space where conflict felt dangerous, you likely learned to adapt, to read the room before reading yourself. And in doing so, you became a master at blending in, but a stranger to your own needs. The solution isn't to fight everyone, it's to stop fighting yourself. So here's a practice. Pick something small, something you genuinely disagree with, but have never spoken up about. Share your truth. Then pause. Breathe through the discomfort. Remind yourself that you're still here, still safe, still whole. That moment is your training ground. What you're doing is called recalibration. You're teaching your nervous system that disagreement doesn't equal danger, and that you no longer need approval to validate your existence. And then ask yourself this: when do I find myself performing for others? When do I abandon my own voice in order to be accepted? And most importantly, why am I still asking the world to tell me who I am? The Stoics would remind you that your opinion of yourself should matter more than the applause or silence of others. And the path toward that kind of inner clarity is not dramatic, it's deliberate. Small daily acts of truthfulness, repeated, grounded, quiet. We're not done yet. There's one more trap to uncover, the mask of the good one, and what it costs us to keep wearing it. Let's go deeper. 4. Stop performing, start living. At some point in your journey of self-growth, you'll hit a wall, not because you're doing something wrong, but because you've replaced one mask with another. In the beginning, maybe you were the chameleon, the one who kept everyone happy, kept the peace, said what was safe. Then you began working on yourself, going to therapy, learning the language of boundaries. You felt proud, and you should. But slowly, without noticing, a new identity formed. I'm a people pleaser, I have issues with boundaries, I'm working on myself. And without meaning to, you began to wear this as your truth. The trap is subtle. You start looking for what's wrong in every situation because fixing has become familiar. Even in peace, you search for problems. Self-improvement becomes a performance. You speak in disclaimers, walk on eggshells, afraid to upset anyone, even when it means silencing your own voice. You no longer people please for approval, now you people please for identity. It's become who you think you are. But the Stoics would challenge that. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." What if the version of you who always needs to fix and adjust is not your true self, but just a role you've rehearsed so often that it started to feel real? What if letting go of that mask means finally becoming who you were before the world told you to please it? Here's a small but powerful example. Imagine you're at a dinner. The topic shifts to nutrition. Someone passionately argues against eating meat. You disagree, but you stay quiet. Why? Not because you don't have a view, but because deep down you fear the conflict. You tell yourself it's about being polite, but it's not. It's about the old fear. If I say what I believe, I might not be liked. So try this. Say it. Say what's true for you, even if it's small. Say, "I love steak." Not to argue, not to offend, but simply to stop abandoning yourself in exchange for harmony. Every time you swallow your truth, you teach yourself that who you are isn't safe to express. The Stoic path is not about becoming bulletproof. It's about becoming honest. And honesty begins when you drop the performance. When you say, "This is what I believe, this is how I feel," and you let people have their reactions while you remain whole. Because once you stop living for approval, you start living with clarity. And from that place, the next step becomes obvious. It's time to explore what it means to live, not through the eyes of others, but through your own. Let's keep going. 5. The power of being fully yourself. If you're not willing to be disliked, you'll never be fully seen. That's the paradox. So many people move through life wondering why their relationships feel shallow, why their conversations feel scripted, why they can't seem to find their people. But the answer is simple. They've spent so long being liked, they've forgotten how to be real. You want to attract meaningful connections? Be a magnet. And here's the thing about magnets. They repel just as strongly as they attract. The stronger your presence, the more some people will love you, and the more others simply won't. And that's not just acceptable, it's necessary. Because if everyone likes you, it means you've diluted something. You've flattened out the edges that made you unique. And in doing so, you've sacrificed the very thing that could have pulled the right people closer. Stoicism reminds us to stop seeking validation from others and instead seek alignment with our own nature. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. That's the price of being authentic. And it's worth it, because pretending is exhausting. So instead of hiding your beliefs, your quirks, your truths, put them at the front. Lead with them. Let people disagree. Let people walk away. That's not rejection, that's clarity." Imagine you're at a dinner and someone shares a strong opinion. Maybe you disagree. Maybe your instinct is to stay quiet, to avoid the tension. You don't want to cause discomfort. But ask yourself, how many moments have you swallowed your truth just to keep the peace? And at what cost? Because every time you silence your voice for acceptance, you're telling yourself, "I am not safe to be seen as I am." And over time, that belief digs deep. You don't need to be loud to be powerful. You just need to be honest. Say what you believe and let others respond. Not everyone has to agree with you. You and I may not have the same favorite movie. That doesn't mean we can't connect deeply in other ways, because people are more than their opinions, and you are more than one moment of awkwardness. There's more to you than that one comment at dinner. There's more to you than self-help, improvement, or fitting in. If someone judges your whole character based on a disagreement, they're not your people, and that's information. The Stoic approach is to screen early. Let your truth act as a filter. Put your full self forward, your thoughts, your humor, your stories. Some people will be drawn in, others won't. That's how you find your tribe. And remember this, no one truly knows you. Even your closest friend or family member has only seen pieces, glimpses. You're the only one who's lived every second of your story. You're the only one who knows what it feels like to wake up as you, to carry your thoughts, to survive your past. So why would you let someone who's only seen the trailer write a review of the whole movie? If someone sees 5 minutes of your life and says, "You're not enough," why would you believe them? Would you trust a movie critic who hasn't watched the film? Of course not. So don't do that to yourself. The only voice that truly sees the whole picture is your own. Train yourself to value that voice. And yes, it's going to feel uncomfortable at first. Rejection stings. But what hurts more is when you betray yourself to avoid it. When you play both sides, when you try to keep everyone happy, what you're really doing is rejecting yourself. And that wound goes deeper. Because even if you manage to win their approval, you'll still feel empty. Why? Because it wasn't you who they liked. It was the mask. Letting go of that need to be loved by everyone is where true freedom begins. And the discomfort? That's just your old wiring being undone. Breathe through it. Practice small acts of truth. Learn to sit in the tension. Let go of the belief that safety comes from sameness. It doesn't. It comes from self-trust. Every time you speak honestly, act authentically, or choose not to chase approval, you're reparenting yourself. You're choosing to lead instead of perform. So, the next time you make even the smallest decision, what coffee you want, what you feel in a room, pause and ask, am I making this choice to be liked or to be real? The answer to that question is where your power lives. Let's keep walking forward. There's still more to uncover. 6. Trust yourself before the world does. In a world of instant answers and endless noise, we've forgotten how to ask the most important source, ourselves. The moment we face uncertainty, we rush to Google, open ChatGPT, or scroll through YouTube. We tell ourselves we're learning, but what we're really doing is outsourcing. We don't pause to wonder, what do I already know? What do I feel is right? Instead, we go straight to external voices, and little by little, we silence our own. But Stoicism invites us to reverse that reflex. Epictetus didn't carry a search bar in his pocket. He carried his reason, he trained his judgment, he practiced self-trust, even when the answers weren't clear, and we can do the same. The next time you're stuck, try this. Before searching outside, search within. Sit in the discomfort of not knowing for a moment. Ask yourself, what might be the next step? Then, if needed, consult others, not as masters, but as mirrors, to check your thinking. At the heart of this is a deeper issue. We've lost touch with our own authority. Look at how people talk about motivation. I need someone to hold me accountable. But think about that for a second. That statement reveals a core belief. I don't trust myself to do what I said I would do. I need someone else to make sure I follow through. That's not discipline, that's dependence. Now, accountability can be helpful as a beginning. Like training wheels, it can support you when self-trust is weak. But no one rides with training wheels forever. At some point, you have to pedal on your own. Otherwise, you remain a slave to external structure, only moving when someone else is watching. True growth begins when you can tell yourself, get up, go, do it. And then you do. The Stoics remind us that freedom isn't found in comfort or control, but in self-mastery. And self-mastery requires listening inward before reacting outward. Most people live as if the answers are always out there. But your life is not a quiz for others to solve. It's a conversation you must be willing to have with yourself. A conversation that starts with, what do I know? What do I believe? What will I act on today? Not because someone told me to, but because I said so. If you've ever seen Dead Poets Society, you'll remember the message, Carpe diem, seize the day. But seizing the day doesn't mean performing. It means claiming ownership. It means deciding your next step from your own compass, not someone else's map. So the next time you hesitate, the next time you're tempted to check what someone else would do, ask yourself first. Because no one else is living your life. No one else wakes up in your skin, feels your thoughts, or carries your weight. And that makes you the only qualified expert on your path. Let that realization settle. Let it challenge you. Because the next step on this journey isn't about adding more information. It's about reclaiming what's already within you. And from there, we continue. 7. Let go of who you think you should be. There comes a time when we all have to ask ourselves, am I truly being seen, or am I just being accepted for the role I've learned to play? Most people don't realize they're performing. They've done it for so long it feels normal. You become the polite one, the agreeable one, the hard-working, always available, never too much version of yourself. You show up as who you think you should be, not who you really are, and little by little, that performance becomes a cage. The Stoics warned against this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one, not appear to be one, not perform it, live it." And that means letting go of the mask, even the well-behaved one that earns applause. Because being liked for who you're not is its own kind of rejection, and you feel it, not in the moment when others approve, but in the quiet after, when you know you disappeared just to be tolerated. Maybe you've done this at work. You're in a meeting, and an idea comes up you disagree with, but instead of speaking, you stay quiet, you nod, you keep the peace. After all, you don't want to seem difficult. But walking out of that room, something in you feels smaller. You didn't just lose a moment, you lost yourself in it. Or maybe it happens with friends. Everyone's laughing about something you actually don't find funny. You force a smile. You laugh a little too. Not because you agree, but because you don't want to feel like the outsider. And again, later you wonder, do they even know me? Do I even know myself when I'm with them? These are the invisible performances that wear us down. They're not loud. They don't explode. They quietly chip away at authenticity. And the more you do it, the more you reinforce a dangerous belief. Who I am is not enough. I have to become what others want to be accepted. The Stoics would remind you that respect is not earned by pleasing everyone. It's earned by respecting yourself enough to stop shape-shifting. And that starts with one shift in perspective. You are not the product trying to be bought. You are the buyer. You are the one choosing who gets access to the real you. That changes everything. It means you walk into a room not wondering, do they like me, but asking, do they align with me? You stop chasing universal approval and start filtering for alignment. And yes, you'll lose some connections, but what remains will be real. And what leaves? It was never for you in the first place. So here's the practice. Next time you feel the urge to shrink, whether it's to laugh when you don't want to, agree when you don't mean it, or stay silent when you want to speak, pause. Ask yourself, am I about to reject myself just to be accepted? If the answer is yes, choose differently. You don't have to be aggressive, just be honest. Say, I actually see that differently, or I'm not really into that. Or even, I'd rather not pretend right now. These are small sentences, but they hold the weight of your entire self-worth. Because in the end, people will misunderstand you, some will reject you, but that's not the wound. The real wound is when you do it to yourself. When you spend your life being loved for a mask and end up wondering if anyone ever really saw you. So stop playing the role. Let them see you fully, clearly, unapologetically. That's not rebellion, that's alignment. And in that space, you don't just gain respect, you reclaim something far more powerful, yourself. True respect does not come from volume or performance. It comes from presence, from the quiet strength of someone who no longer negotiates their worth to please the room. If today's message reminded you of who you are beneath the roles and the noise, then hold on to that. Let it guide how you show up tomorrow. If you're on this path of becoming more honest, more grounded, and more free, consider subscribing so we can keep walking it together. No pressure, just a shared space for those who are done pretending. Drop a comment below with 3 simple words. Own your voice. Let it be your anchor. Let it be your reminder. And as you move forward, remember this. You don't have to raise your voice to be heard. You just have to stop silencing yourself. The next video will show you how to carry this power into your everyday actions. Until then, stay steady, stay centered, and stay real.